Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Troy. Hey, listen, by now we've all heard the disgusting treasonous comments by Marjorie Treason Green, about wanting a national divorce between red states and blue states. She actually kind of expanded on that idea in the days following that tweet because she wanted to kind of get into the practical details of how that would work because she's such a deep thinker, as we all know. But one aspect of it particularly caught my attention, and she really spells it out here in this interview on Charlie Kirk's show, where she's talking about a cooling off period for when Democrats move to red states and how they need to not be allowed to vote for a little while. Check this out.
So, Congresswoman Green, I want to make sure I understood you correctly. Were you saying that we should have a cooling off period to say people should not be able to vote for a couple years if they move from a blue state to a red state?
It would be something I would highly recommend with the mass exodus of states like California and New York, where people that have lived in these Democrat states all their lives and really just don't know any other way. But then when they move somewhere like Florida or Georgia or Texas or another red state, and they always love it, and they are just praising how wonderful it is. But yet at election time, they turn around and vote Democrat like they always have. Well, they really are like newcomers ruining our beautiful red states and trying to change the values that we have. And I think a smart thing for Republican states to do would be say, you know what, we love for you to move here. We welcome you to our state. And if you like the way it is, we want to keep it that way. So a cooling period would be great. You can still vote in federal elections, but maybe we don't want you to vote in our state elections for a while. And that's something that they could do in a national divorce. I don't know, give them maybe 5 years, 3 to 5 years to realize and learn why the red states are the way they are. And it's because of Republican votes, not Democrat votes.
If you can hear the screaming, that is the ACLU already preemptively filing a lawsuit.
Can somebody please tell her that Georgia is a blue state? I don't think she's figured that out yet. She's been roasted from one end of the internet to the other by suggesting that she's from a red state. She's not. She's from Georgia. Biden won Georgia. Georgia has 2 Democratic senators. So please, let's just make sure she realizes that she would have to leave her own state under this plan, under a national divorce. But these people just absolutely love to sit around in their little echo chamber and talk about this idea that there's a mass exodus from blue states and that everybody's fleeing California and New York for red states because of the politics, because California is such a horrible place to live. This, by the way, is a complete myth. The idea that there's a mass exodus from California was found to be a myth in a recent study. California has lost, over the last 4 years or so, has lost around 500,000 people, net loss of around 500,000 people. That's less than 1% of the entire population of the state of California, with a population of 40 million people. Not statistically significant enough to claim that there is some sort of mass exodus happening from California. At the same time, there are still people moving into California at large rates. They're just not moving to California at the same rate that they're moving to Texas and and Florida and some of these other red states. But that doesn't mean that California population is shrinking in any kind of statistically significant way. And it certainly doesn't mean that people are fleeing the state. So that right there is a myth. But I just find it absolutely hilarious that these people will really just sit around and tell each other how great they have it in their red states. Even though red states are bottom 25 and everything, they're the bottom in education, they're the bottom in healthcare, they're the bottom in environment, infrastructure, crime and corrections. Everything is worse in red states. Red states have the worst crime of any place in the country. But in order to fulfill their narrative that they know how to govern and Democrats don't, they have to delude themselves into thinking that places like California, which is the wealthiest state in the union, whose GDP is larger than the bottom 25 states combined, with a very, very liberal Democratic government, California kind of shatters their whole worldview. So they have to tell each other that everybody hates California and that they're fleeing to red states. But she's talking about people moving to red states and just being so happy to now be in their red conservative Republican states, but still planning to vote Democratic because it's all they know. It's the only thing they've ever known. She's not basing this off of anything. She can't point to a single person, a single case study of anybody that she's talked to where this is the truth. that she's completely just making this shit up and pulling it out of her ass, because this is what these people do. And they tell each other this in their echo chamber, and it sounds good to them, so they repeat it. Also, this idea that people that live in blue states are just politically inept or immature and don't have any reason to vote the way they do. They're just casting votes for Democrats because that's all they know. They can't actually think for themselves. This is what these people actually believe. Like, get over yourself. People are moving to red states because it's a little bit too expensive to live in California, or they have to move for work. Don't flatter yourself. People are not leaving California for red states because they hate the politics, because California is a failed state. That's a myth. Then she goes on to say that Democrats who move to red states should have a cooling off period and not be able to vote in state or local elections for 5 years until they learn just how great the red states are and how great they have it since moving to red states, which are the bottom 25 and everything. Does anyone else feel like this sounds like re-education to me? I mean, she's talking about a cooling off period for 5 years until you can learn how good you have it. You don't have the right to vote after moving to red states. This is pure, like, just fascist indoctrination, pure re-education, Cold War era re-education. They don't want people to be able to vote until they can be indoctrinated into some kind of right-wing fantasy that these people are telling themselves, until they convince these people that they were better off leaving California or New York or wherever they're from. Absolutely delusional, fascist, horrifying. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a complete lunatic, and she sits on the Homeland Security Committee because Kevin McCarthy is a spineless coward. But how's that going to work practically? You're going to look at someone's voting record and decide that they can no longer vote? What if somebody's moving to a red state because they're really excited to vote for a Republican? They've recently become a Republican and they're really excited to vote solid R down the ticket. Are you going to tell them they have to wait 5 years? Oh no, you're just disenfranchising current Democrats. People that plan to vote Democrat can't vote. If you plan to vote Republican when you move to these red states, sure thing. You've already passed the test. You've already been cooled off and indoctrinated into the red state universe. And so you're good to go ahead and vote for a Republican. But if you plan on voting for a Democrat, you may need a cooling off period until you realize how good you have it in the red states. How fucking creepy is this? How bizarre that someone would say like this in the United States. And how absolutely horrifying is it that she's being so well received for these ideas by the mainstream right-wing media? Charlie Kirk is the head of Turning Point USA, which is the largest right-wing Republican youth organizing organization in the country. This is not some fringe group. Turning Point USA has campus groups on almost every campus in the United States. And he's wholeheartedly embracing this national divorce idea. She's going on Fox News where Sean Hannity is asking her serious questions about it as if it would actually happen. What are the practicalities of achieving a national divorce and what that would mean for red states and blue states? But can we also just say that what does that mean for Republican voters that stay in blue states, that don't move to red states? There are more Republican voters in the state of California than there are in any other state. So what happens to them? Do you just write those people off as hopelessly bought into the blue state propaganda? Do blue states now then deny Republicans the right to vote in blue states? This is all nuts. This woman is a lunatic of the first degree, a fascist of the first degree, and she sits in a position of power. And it's absolutely horrifying that she isn't just immediately, it's really indicative of the state of our politics that she hasn't been expelled from Congress or banned from running for office under the fact that she's an insurrectionist traitor under the 14th Amendment insurrection clause. But two, that she hasn't been censured, she hasn't been made to sit in the back of Congress, and that there isn't even more outrage on the right about this national divorce. And in fact, it's actually stirring a conversation on the right about whether this could actually work, to the point where they're discussing practicalities of voting rights in their new fantasy red states of America, where they can disenfranchise Democratic voters and turn red states, the red states of America, into some sort of fascist Christian nationalist utopia. My question is, why the hell don't you just move to Russia? Just make it final. You don't want to live in the United States. You don't love America. You don't love Americans. You hate living here. You're not actually a patriot. You'd be much, much better off in Russia. So why don't you just make that dream a reality? For MeidasTouch, this is Troy. Remember, smash that subscribe button to keep supporting independent media.
The best part of waking up? MAGA tears in my cup. Check out the new MAGA Tears mug available now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com. It's 100% union made right here in the USA. I know I'm not tired of winning yet. How about you? Get yours today.